The Board of Trustees of Nigeria's opposition party, the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, says it will constitute a committee to resolve disagreements among members of its party. Rising from an emergency meeting, the party BOT says it is concerned that if issues are left unresolved, the future of the party may be in jeopardy. Georgina Nduke, Eziayinka reports.
This is an emergency meeting of the Board of Trustees of Nigeria's major opposition party, the People's Democratic Party. This meeting has been called to address the crisis affecting the party in recent times.
There is also the need to take firm stand to drastically reduce the action of court cases by agreed members, but to always follow the procedure enshrined in the constitution of the party. Anyone that takes the party to court should be seriously disciplined.
The recent resignation of 7 officers forced the BOT committee to convene. Chairman of the party's Board of Trustees, Walid Jubril, enjoins members to put aside personal interests and focus on the forthcoming party convention.
This meeting today should deliberate fully on the need to put our collective interests as 2 PDP members ahead of any personal interest against unity and stability of the party.
The PDP national chairman is at the center of the crisis within the party. He is appealing that the BOT meets with the aggrieved officers and other members to resolve all thorny issues before the convention and the general elections.
I believe seriously that the members of the Board of Trustees who have worked so hard from the beginning, and now that they, in collaboration with the National Working Committee and the Governors Forum, will be able to chart a course that will bring victory to our party.
The BOT at the end of the meeting agreed to constitute a committee made up of governors, past and present, National Assembly and BOT members to critically look at the disagreements within the party.
We've agreed that we set up this committee urgently, and within the next 48 to 72 hours they will meet, and at the end of that meeting the country will see the direction which the party is going.
It's more trouble for the People's Democratic Party as a member of the BOT, Joy Emodi, has announced that she has left the party for the All Progressives Congress shortly after 7 NWC officers resigned their positions in the party. Now, with the 2023 elections few years away, the People's Democratic Party has a lot of work to do to ensure that the party remains relevant in Nigeria's political space. Georgina Nduke, Arise News.
Well, people say this is self-inflicted injuries on the PDP, and they have to find a way to deal with it because they have a larger role as an opposition party in the country, lest we fall into a one-party system.
Yes, that has always been the argument touted, lest we fall into a one-party system. But also, let's not forget the fact that most of these parties self-destruct. They do it themselves. I mean, you wonder what led to the dissolution of, political parties in the past, what led to the harmonization of political parties. They just morphed into new political parties and they self-destruct. That's not different from the PDP and what is happening now. But it has taken a turn. Secondus still keeps his seat. And I think it was somebody that was saying yesterday that this is all a game. And those people that resigned...
No, I said it.
Okay, you said it
yesterday.
Yeah, you said it. Dr. Bati was saying it yesterday that this is all a game. And the 7 people have kept their seats. I mean, they've resigned. All of a sudden, one of them, Odeyemi, has turned around that resignation. He said, okay, I'm coming back to the fold. There was an interview on Newsday yesterday with one of the folks out of London, part of the 7 people that resigned. And what they were clamoring for was, we want recognition. We want to be recognized. In fact, they went further to say that, you see, take, for instance, they go out for visits to other top members like governors and the like that. They don't take us along. And that's their own grouse. So they want that sense of inclusion. And as time goes on today, maybe some of the 7 too will come back. One of them have come back already, so remaining 6. One of them will come back. Secondus keeps his job. I think the narrative among the PDP now is they know they're doomed if they touch Secondus now. So they're saying, let's wait it out. Even if you have grounds against it, wait it out to the 9th of December when you're going to have that, Congress. Convention. So it is just for everybody to play safe. And they've, like Ologbodiyan did say yesterday, Colonel Ologbodiyan, that we have activated that internal, dispute mechanism. Let's see how that pans out. But it was an extensive meeting yesterday. There were a lot of governors there, the PDP governors. There were other stakeholders, elders of the party and the likes. And Governor Wike was said to have walked in, and I think he left afterwards. So we'll see how that pans out. Paul Ibe released a statement yesterday, that's the Atiku Abubakar spokesperson, that in the interest of the party, all sides must come together. But like Dr. Abati, you said yesterday, this is looking like a game to me. And we'll see how this continues to play out.
For a party that was in power for 16 years, they understand this game very well.
What an average politician will tell you is that, look, within a political party, there will be contestations.
Yes.
There will be disagreements. But what is important is how that political party manages the crisis. I have made a point on this program in the course of this week, about twice or thrice, that look, the PDP has a duty to learn lessons from what happened in 2015. The PDP lost the election in 2015 in part, I'm not saying wholly, but in part because of the crisis within the party. And what the party has tried to do is to just follow up on what Kola Ologbodiyan referred to as conflict resolution mechanisms within the party. And yesterday, the big issue is about whether Wike, Governor Nyesom Wike was invited to the party, to the meeting or not. Ordinarily, 7 governors are not members of the board of trustees. But he appeared and he made his own representation at the meeting. And I think, in any case, that's in order. This was a case of Governor Wike saying that you cannot shave a man's head.
In his absence.
In his absence. That's a famous, MKO Abiola proverb. So he showed up, and I think his presence there must have added to the conversation. But at the end of the day, I think reason has prevailed. Uche Secondus gets to keep his position till the convention, which was what was the point that was also echoed by former legal advisor to the party, Mark Jacobs, when he appeared on this program. So the big game now is going to be at the convention. But Governor Wike's presence at that meeting also helped, perhaps, for the Board of Trustees to hear the other side of the story. Yeah. And at the end of the day, when I said yesterday that this is all a game, it's not surprising that some of the persons who resigned are now thinking of returning to their positions. But the point has been made clearly about some people's objection to the continued chairmanship of Prince Uche Secondus. It may well happen that at the end of the convention in December, that Uche Secondus will no longer be the chairman of the party. It may well happen that someone else will take his position. But we're dealing in this conflict with 2 very strong personalities. Nyesom Wike is a very resolute person. The same way, Uche Secondus is a very strong personality. But the 2 of them, and maybe this is a personal point, should place the interests of the party above their individual egos, above their personal interests, above their political choices, and allow the People's Democratic Party to be able to remain strong or to become stronger as a political party. Otherwise, what happened to the PDP in 2014-2015 could repeat itself. Well, but I guess the people in the All Progressives Congress, which is the ruling party, they probably will be very happy that the PDP appears to be in disarray at this moment. And that's a strong signal for the leaders of the party to note and to pull everybody together to see how they can organize themselves. However, there are many Nigerians who say that both the APC and PDP are useless and who say they want change in terms of even the party that runs the country.
Indeed. Well, I'm wondering, where's the third force now? Why don't you just take advantage of the situation? But hey, we're going to a quick break now. When we return, the morning show continues in just a moment.
Odiri. Rotus, how are you? Great to have you. Good morning.
Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Doctor. Good morning, Desoa. Good morning to all our viewers. African Business Update today, we'll be looking at a headline from Business Day that was looking at the 5 most profitable, fast-moving consumer goods companies in Nigeria. They are Dangote. This is for H1 2021, so the first half of this year. So those 5 companies: Dangote Sugar, Flour Mills of Nigeria, Nestle Nigeria, Unilever, and Nascon. So Flour Mills, they saw their profits jump by about 90%, revenues up 48%. Again, H1 2021, first 6 months of this year. Unilever, they jumped from a loss in 2020 to about a profit of $714 billion. Their revenues jumped about 48%. Dangote Sugar, revenues jumped 28%. Nestle and Nascon, I mean, they saw profit declines in the first half of 2021, but their revenues did jump by about 21%. So let's take a look at this chart here, because it's very interesting looking at the growth in the first half revenues of these 5 companies. Again, it's the 5 largest FMCGs, fast-moving consumer goods companies in Nigeria. So if you look at the chart, 810 billion naira is how much these 5 companies combined brought in the first half of 2021. That is a 147% jump from the 327 billion that they brought in revenues in the first 6 months of 2014. So it's a 147% jump. It's also a 37% jump from the figures that they brought in 2020, which is 590 billion naira in the first half of 2020. It's also interesting when you look at charts like this, you got to look at where Nigeria fell into recession. So, 2016, 2020, you still saw growth for these companies. Now the question is why? How is it that these companies, these fast-moving consumer goods companies, again, the top 5, I'm not talking about the entire sector, but the top 5, how is it they were able to register this growth? One, they raised prices. You have to look at where inflation is, double-digit inflation so far this year. These companies raised prices about 2 or 3 times over these past 6 months. So prices went up. For people that were shopping, they saw what was happening in terms of prices. Also, there was an increase in consumer spending. We talk about the base effect. Household spending fell about 11% or so in the first half of 2020. It kind of rebounded. So these 5 companies benefited from that rebound. It's also interesting to note that the food, beverage, and tobacco subsector of the manufacturing sector grew by 7% in the first quarter of this year, right? Manufacturing grew by 3.4%. So it was boosted by the food, beverage, and tobacco sector. So you've got price increases. You've also got increased consumer spending, right? Now, we do want to look at it. There's a very interesting report from Veraki Business Solutions. I actually had the CEO, Mr. Nii Yusuf, back in February of this year on the Global Business Report. So we spoke about a number of things back then. But this report looks at the growth potential of CPGs, consumer packaged goods, and they look at the sector as a whole. So I think the report came out in April of 2021. So they are looking, that is Veraki Solutions, looking at the growth potential of the CPG sector. CPG, FMCG, same thing, consumer packaged goods, fast-moving consumer goods. We're talking about the same thing. So from that report, there's a very interesting chart. If you're looking at a sector that needs to grow, it's dependent on the economy, right? If we talk about the potentials of Africa and the different African markets that we have, the potential of a subsector to grow, be it manufacturing, be it food, be it consumer goods, oil and gas, whatever it is, if the economy is growing, then that sector has the potential to grow as well. So there's an Africa Growth Fundamentals section of their report, which is very interesting. It's got 2 charts there. But if you start at the top, they look at the biggest economies in Africa: Nigeria, South Africa, Egypt, Algeria, Morocco, and Kenya. But they look at the top 5 fastest growing countries in the African continent. That's your top, the table at the top there. The second row: Rwanda, Ethiopia, the Ivory Coast, Ghana, Tanzania, Benin. Nigeria is not there, obviously. Best growth in consumer products, the potential for best growth: Ghana is in first place, Kenya is in second place, Nigeria is in third place, South Africa, Uganda, Ethiopia rounded out. But now look at the 2 charts at the bottom of the screen. To your left, GDP growth versus unemployment. You can see Nigeria and South Africa struggling, where their respective GDP growth is completely outpaced by unemployment, rising unemployment. And that GDP growth summary is from 2017 through to 2019. And for Nigeria, that was a terrible period. Same thing for South Africa. Compared to your Ghana, your Egypt, and your Kenya, again, that's the bottom left. Look at how Ghana, Egypt, and Kenya, even though we talked about Ghana yesterday and the protests with respect to the macroeconomic fundamentals that are affecting youth unemployment and so on, Ghana is still, doing well, which is why most people say that protest is mostly political. But still, Ghana, Egypt, Kenya, bottom left of your screen, you can see their GDP growth doing well compared to unemployment in their respective countries. If you look to the right, the bottom right of the same chart that we're looking at there, budget to GDP ratio, I mean, look at Nigeria at the bottom left. Nigeria is barely at 0.05%. But this is what happens when you've got a 400 billion economy and a budget of only $30 billion, which you still can't even fund, and you've still got a large budget deficit. But when you look at the African countries and you look at the bottom right on the screen with those blue bars, Nigeria barely 0.05. Look at South Africa, barely 0.03%. Same thing with Ghana, same thing with Egypt, compared to your Brazil and the other Asian nations on the right-hand side. I think Malaysia is there as well. So this factors in to the sectors and its consumer goods, right? Consumer packaged goods and fast-moving consumer goods, which depend on the disposable incomes of employed people in these respective countries. It relies heavily on it. So if your unemployment rate is outpacing GDP growth and your budget to GDP ratio is very low, then there's issues with that. Now, finally, I do want to go to Nigerian challenges. They did talk about this. A list there where they list the challenges in Nigeria, and we know about this. These, of course, have an impact on the wider sector for fast-moving consumer goods. So a weak economy, inflation, currency issues, remittance, unemployment, logistics, insecurity, and so on and so forth. So that's the report. While, again, the summary here is the top 5 largest FMCG companies, they did well, but the wider sector, there's still challenges. And then finally,
Rotus, we have very limited time on all segments today. We have very limited time.
PwC told the federal government of Nigeria that they need to sell off
we're out of time. Specifically, we're out of time. But it will be nice to ask you about, the how of the fast-moving consumer goods companies doing very well. You talked about the how, increase in prices. And also you talked about, what they've been able to do in terms of increasing consumer spending. Whereas in other countries, people have been saving and not necessarily improving. And I would have loved to ask you about the implications. What does this mean? Does it mean that the economy is recovering at a faster pace? But unfortunately, we don't have time. You took up all the time. Okay? But good to have you.
Sorry about that.
Real quickly, Rotus will move over. Thank you so much. We'll move to Michael Wilson. Michael Wilson just from London, from France, I should still believe. Michael, good morning.
Actually, back in
London.
For the record.
Oh, yeah?
That's a time.
Had a good holiday?
Cool.
Jolly well.
Yeah, thanks. So everything really paused before the US jobless figures today. The jobs figures, the economy in the United States could put on about 870,000 jobs, which should actually be good. So basically, we'll all get very excited about it. Asia will have, of course, the whole weekend to think about it. Also, you're going to add in China's weekend data release of foreign exchange reserves, its trade balance. All that will be in the mix on Monday, and PPI also released on Monday morning in China. Against that, of course, more Delta variant cases, which you will no doubt go into later on. Much the same in Asia markets. Basically, elsewhere, Nikkei up a little bit, Kospi up very, very slightly. Bangkok I'll come on to this, but there's a new unicorn, i.e. billion-dollar company called Bukalapak. It IPO'd today in Indonesia, rose up 25%. China generally, specifically, markets there slightly off because of the downgrading of this real estate group. It's a massive one called Evergrande. It's been downgraded to CCC, which is sort of kind of average grading, basically, by Moody's, and that's actually sending the markets down. Japan, once again, as I said, household spending not up a lot. It's expected the Bank of Japan will continue with its 30-year easing. Well, that has to be a world record. 30 years of looking for some kind of inflation. China, specifically, its smartphone maker Xiaomi outsells the rival smartphone makers there. Better than Indus, better than Apple, better than Samsung. The quarter ended in June. It's the second largest smartphone maker by shipment as well, exporting, i.e., so just trailing Samsung, but right up there. So as I said to you, Indonesia, we should note this e-commerce Bukalapak jumping on its IPO launch there. It's an 11-year-old firm. Backers include Microsoft and Ant Group and so on. But actually to do that, since really good as far as its IPO is concerned. And it's similarly in the region. South Korea's Kakao Bank also surged on its debut. It's rising as high as 77%. Some of the gains were later paired, but basically after it finished its IPO, it was still 70% higher. Okay, let us go to the United States because everything's paused before their jobless figures there. As far as the market's concerned, another record day. Jobless claims were better than expected yesterday. That's the sort of excuse. But basically, what is going to happen? Do you know what I really feel about this? I don't think that anybody knows what's going on in the US economy. I don't know. I can't think what the FOMC is going to do. I can't think what we're going to tell from Jackson Hole later this month. And many United States are actually closing off their furlough payments to try to get people back to work. So unemployment, the summer, and people back to school, that's still all got to go through in August. We're not going to hear anything realistic, I feel, somehow about the US economy until September. Here's a good one for you. Do you remember how skeptical JP Morgan was about cryptocurrencies? Well, apparently, over the last month, they've launched 6 funds, or allowed access, as they put it. And this is quite interesting because the awkward fact is that the CEO, Jamie Dimon, had been one of Wall Street's biggest critics of cryptocurrencies. And also the SEC is now getting involved in cryptocurrencies, quite ironically, to try to stop investors getting harmed by the market. Okay, so we have the Bank of England meeting yesterday. They've increased their forecast for inflation to 4% now by the end of the year. However, and this is the big however, the Bank of England governor is once again saying that this rise will just be temporary. We'll see about that. I would point your attention also to starting salaries in the UK, which, because of the job shortages now after Brexit, rising at a record rate. So that will push wage inflation, will no doubt push inflation generally in the UK. And the UK government has started to search for a new accounting watchdog. It sounds very boring. It kind of is. But at the same time, the big 4 accountants have missed some of the biggest accounting scandals over the past few years. And that organisation is rudderless at the moment. They're looking for a new chairman, or chairperson, should I say. Oil, just the commodities, a modest rally as far as oil's concerned. And gold, well, it's about 1804 at the moment, and it's below the daily moving average, quite honestly. So what's going to happen there? Don't know really. It depends on the jobs figures, I guess, from the United States. That will give a whole new view to where the markets are actually going. So we wait for those basically at lunchtime today. That's your global view. Good morning.
Well, on Bank of England, is the Bank of England and the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, are they on the same page? Because those statements about inflation and also about quantitative easing, it looks like these 2 departments, seem to be in different directions. And then again, will you say that indeed the position taken by the Bank of England is the right position to take? I've read at least one commentary saying that the Bank of England is merely trying to protect its own ego. And by saying inflation will be transitory. In fact, I think one of the MPC members used the word rising inflation is just symbolic. How is that an appropriate measurement of the real situation?
I would repeat to you that what we see from the Bank of England, as in all central banks, is a committee decision, and it could be that the Bank of England is trying to protect its own position and protect its own forecast. Who knows? It's a view, isn't it? I'm always cynical about these kind of things. I sort of go along with that view that they do have to protect their forecast, but at the same time, it is entirely possible that the rise in inflation could be transitory because everything's been so low. I'm sorry I can't give you a positive answer. I'm just observing what the markets actually say. And that's what they're saying. It could go either way. We trust that central banks, I don't know how yours works. The central bank in the UK actually has its managers and its reports in from all over the country to try and give it some sort of picture about this. But like all civil servants, they protect their own jobs. That's what public money does for you. It's not your money. You're being paid by the state. So therefore, you're happy to protect your jobs and your forecast. It could be true. However, I feel as though things have been so low. If it were me, I'd be saying I would look through the spikes right now, because I think that's a brave decision to make.
Thank you very much, Michael Wilson.